You are now watching, By the Minute, where we highlight unsolved, unidentified and missing cases across the nation. Every year on average 4,400 people die and remain unidentified. They were once people of our community and their stories will never go forgotten. Fayetteville, North Carolina. September 15, 1977. Two men would discover a mystery that would leave them shaken with fear. In a shallow grave they would find our unidentified Jane Doe, near Pine Forest High School and Andrews Road, which is 7 miles north of Fayetteville. The grave was only about 12 to 18 inch deep. Whoever did this knew they were guilty and tried to get away with their crimes. They know that we know what happened. It's now time for the community to band together and help us identify our Jane Doe, and help authorities capture this criminal. Here is a reconstruction drawing of our victim. Our Jane Doe is a black female, between the ages of 30 to 40, with the height of 4 feet 11 inches, weighing 130 pounds with black long shoulder-length hair. She had either given birth to no children or at least 2. Our Jane Doe was murdered at least 6 to 8 weeks before her discovery. If you have any information about the identity of our Jane Doe, please contact North Carolina Medical Examiner's Office or the Cumberland County Sheriff's Office. Someone out there is left without answers. They may not even know their loved one is gone. Help us keep this story in the light and bring awareness to our Jane Doe. We also have a suspect who's been hiding in our community for a long time. It's time they answer for their crimes. Until then, a murderer lurks among us. By the Minute. Hudsonville, Michigan. October 20, 1967. Hunters would come across a discovery that would lead them to immediately contacting police. Police were sent to the wooded area near 52nd Avenue and Fillmore Street. When they arrived, they would find a body of a female that was partially clothed. Through medical examination, autopsy would attribute cause of death to strangulation and blunt force trauma to the head. Authorities were unable to identify the young woman described as a black female, 5 feet 8 inches, weighing 100 pounds, between the ages of 20 to 40 years old, with black hair and a short afro and brown eyes. The woman also had an extra tooth on her upper right side. Reports also indicated that a white Rambler was seen in the area, near the dump site around 9 to 9:30 p.m. on October 17, 1967. At this time, there has not been a connection with the vehicle and our Jane Doe, but it has been noted for relevancy. Authorities would have a hard time finding her identity, and she was buried without her name. They have given her the nickname, Jenny. In 2020, authorities would file paperwork to begin working on finding DNA, and they were granted the access to exhume the body. While examiners continue to find DNA evidence that could link our Jane Doe to her true identity, tips can also help us get one step closer. Help us give our Jenny her real name, and attempt to bring the suspect responsible for taking her life to authorities. Have tips? Contact Ottawa County Sheriff's Office. Spartanburg, South Carolina. October 26, 2011. Teens have a way for finding ways of earning extra cash, from chores around the house, to lawn work for their neighbors, and some clean the community and make a return on the items they find. Some teens were spending some time together, attempting to earn some money by collecting scrap metal and turning it in exchange for cash. When they were searching, they would find a body under an old couch. Police would be en route to a wooded area behind a South Main Street home in the Startex Mill Village. At the scene they would find a deceased female that was there for about 2 to 5 years. The woman was described as being of multiple races, either white, black or Latino. 5 feet 5 inches, with short reddish-brown hair, between the ages of 40 to 55. There are few details available in this case, but tips are one way to develop more. Please contact the Spartanburg County Coroner's Office. San Francisco, California. April 5, 1991. Witnesses remember this day, but no one has been able to state they remember the woman. Someone knows her name. According to the American Journal of Psychiatry, this location has seen more than 1,300 self-inflicted losses of life. That location being the Golden State Bridge. The Golden State Bridge connects San Francisco to Marin County. It stretches 1.7 miles and it suspends 245 feet in the air. While there is water underneath, jumpers will usually succumb to the injuries of the high speeds by falling around 75 miles per hour and the harsh impact against the waters. That would be the same demise for a woman, whose identity remains unknown. Witnesses at the scene remember seeing the woman jump from the bridge, fall, hitting the ground. Her body was recovered, but her name is still a mystery. Our Jane Doe is a white female, 5 feet 2 inches, weighing 100 pounds with brown hair and brown eyes between the ages of 20 to 40 years old. Any tips, please contact the Office of the Chief Medical Examiner, San Francisco City and County. South Padre Island, Texas. October 10, 2012. A person walking the beach would see coyotes in the distance, eating something. They would contact police. Police would arrive and find a body buried in the sand, covered in lime. Medical examiners would be called out to the scene and release that the gender of the deceased was a female. Authorities would hold out on releasing information to the public, as they worked an additional case and tried to see if there was any connection. It wouldn't be until 2023 that authorities would reveal more details about the woman and also showing an artist rendition. The woman would be described as white and Hispanic mixed, 5 feet 0 inches, 95 pounds, black coarse wavy hair about 27 inches long. The woman also had tattooed lips and eyebrows. Our Jane Doe was not buried and covered in lime by the works of herself. Someone did this to her. The sooner authorities know her identity, they can get closer to a suspect. Know our Jane Doe's name? Please contact the Cameron County Forensic Pathology. Queens, New York. August 6, 1993. A home for those dealing with mental illness would have a body found in its basement. Sometimes, those who suffer from mental illnesses such as personality disorders or substance abuse, may need additional assistance and live in facilities that care for their needs. At least these facilities are supposed to. Some facilities are known for cruel treatment of their patients, whether it's using them for financial gain or treating them poorly. According to the New York Times, one of those facilities known as a dumping grounds for those suffering from mental illnesses was the Laban House. The Laban House would receive a federal lawsuit against the 361-bed facility in 2001, as male patients were involuntarily taken to a hospital by multiple ambulance units and given prostate surgeries. The Laban House would settle for $7 million in this case. The Laban House would also be the scene for our case, dating back to 1993. Skeletal remains would be found in the basement, in a crawlspace of the facility. Autopsy would reveal that the remains were there for more than a year but less than 5. Luckily, authorities were able to configure a drawing as closely as possible to what our Jane Doe looked like from her skeletal system. Our Jane Doe is described as white female, 5 feet 3 inches, around 50 to 99 years old. Someone out there may be missing a loved one, and unsure what really happened to them. While a record of her stay at the facility could be the link to her identity, if there was not one available in 1993, it's unlikely there is one available today. Let's make sure we get this case to the right family. If you have any tips, please contact the Office of Chief Medical Examiner, New York City. Duluth, Georgia. August 11, 1981. A deceased woman would be found near a dump site over 40 years ago. Her identity remains unknown. Who did this? But most importantly, what's her name? A person would be searching a trash dump site for jars. Instead, they would stumble upon decomposing human remains. Medical examiners would be called to a dump site near McDaniel Road, off of Highway 120. In a ditch was a deceased woman. Autopsy would reveal she is a black female between the ages of 20 to 30 years old, 5 feet 10 inches, 150 to 160 pounds, with a short afro and brown eyes. Our Jane Doe was dressed in a brown or purple dress and wore metal bracelet with Monet engraved on the inside. Medical examiners would also note that our Jane Doe had much dental work done. Someone somewhere knows the identity of our Jane Doe and how she ended up in a ditch at a dump site. While we may not get the answers to both at the same time, finding her identity is the first step. Help us find the identity of our Jane Doe. Share this video to help us raise awareness about this case. Who can help us? Will it be you? If you have any tips about our Jane Doe's identity, please contact the Gwinnett County Police Department. Knoxville, Tennessee. March 30, 2019. People preparing to dock would be halted when they found a body. At the docks located on Buckhead Trail, a woman would be found. When medical examiners arrived, they noted that she had been amongst the waters for a while, and they are truly unsure how she got there. The woman was described as a black female, 5 feet 2 inches to 5 feet 5 inches, weighing 105 to 150 pounds, with graying hair, between the ages of 50 to 70 years old. Detectives believe the faster people see her face, the quicker they can get her name. Know our Jane Doe? Call the Knox County Sheriff's Office. Lynn County, Oregon. July 24, 1976. A moss hunter would stumble upon an unexpected find that would lead him to calling police. It would be in the area off of Highway 20, near Swamp Mountain Road. A moss hunter would find the skeletal remains of what autopsy would reveal to be a woman. Forensics examiners would arrive on scene and be unable to find identification for the woman. Detectives would release evidence of 2 items found with our victim, being these sandals and distinctive belt. Autopsy would reveal that the woman was white or Native American descent, between the ages of 18 to 40 years old, 4 feet 11 inches to 5 feet 1 inch, with brown hair and brown eyes. As time has passed, forensics teams have sought leads, creating multiple composites and DNA phenotyping. Our Jane Doe remains unknown, and with help from our viewers with raising awareness, we believe that together, we can help find her identity. Please note that sometimes, where our Jane or John Doe's remains are found, may not be where they are originally from. That is where we come in to help authorities by raising awareness about these cases across the nation. DNA and dental records are available. Do you know our Jane Doe? If so, please contact the Oregon State Medical Examiner's Office or the Lynn County Sheriff's Office. In this episode, we will cover updates from an unsolved case. Loudoun County, Virginia. May 28, 1973. It was a warm summer day in Northern Virginia. Diversity was also on the rise as fair housing laws made it possible for people of color to move into areas that were once forbidden. A farm in the Lincoln area also faced some heat that day, as it was the scene of a horrific crime. In the Lincoln area, an unidentified woman was found with multiple gunshot wounds. The female was a young black woman between the ages of 18 to 25, black hair, 5 feet 7 inches and weighing 145 pounds. Her remains were discovered in a cattle field by farmers. She could have been there for up to 2 days. To this day, she remains unidentified and classified as a Jane Doe. Someone out there knows something. Someone out there is missing a family member. With tips from the community, we can help authorities identify our Jane Doe and close this unsolved case. Until then, it remains open.
Images from the day 2 weeks ago when 1973 came back vividly to a team participating in the day-long process of exhuming a woman's remains from an unmarked grave. It took place in the cemetery of Mount Olive Baptist Church in Purcellville. From the air, the open grave can still be seen. It's found shot to death in a field near a vacant home on a farm near the intersection of Foundry Road and Taylor Road in Purcellville back on May 28, 1973.
When we reported this story 10 months ago, Loudoun County would publish this news clip 4 months later. The power of raising awareness encourages those in places of leadership to take action. Let this also be a reminder that authorities are consistently working behind the scenes on cold cases across the nation.
As we began to scour the community, nobody knew of the story.
From the cemetery, the victim's body was taken to the office of the chief medical examiner. Loudoun County Sheriff Mike Chapman spoke with News 4 about what is an extraordinary law enforcement effort.
So we have to get a sample of the DNA, and we have to go through the femur, one of the bigger bones, and then hopes that somebody else's DNA profile is available out there that we can kind of compare it to, and hope that we actually get what we need to at least identify potentially relatives, and then maybe kind of take the case from there.
With investigators taking the extra step to conduct DNA analysis, with a connection in the database, we can find our Jane Doe's name, and more about who is responsible for taking her life. In the meantime, tips can help investigators take this case one step forward. Miami, Florida. April 19, 1971. A woman's life was taken and she was found buried in a shallow grave. Authorities hope a facial reconstruction can help find her name. Mosquito trucks would be seen throughout neighborhoods before 1972 when they would be banned. While mosquito controllers were used to making sure there weren't any eggs or potential nests forming, this time they'd be calling on authorities and medical examiners to take control of a crime scene. Police were called to a location near Southwest 195th Avenue and Old Cutler Road. In a shallow grave, they would find a deceased woman. She was described as female, between the ages of 18 to 25, 5 feet 4 inches to 5 feet 8 inches. She may have also had a congenital deformity in her neck vertebrae that resulted in a stiff neck, difficulty bending, or a stooping posture. It's been over 50 years that our Jane Doe is missing her true name. Let's find her and the person who placed her in a shallow grave. Any tips? Please contact the District 11 Miami-Dade County Medical Examiner's Office. Economy Borough, Pennsylvania. December 12, 2014. This Jane Doe case takes a very strange turn, as there was only one portion of the body found and it was also embalmed. How did only a portion of her body get there? In a wooded area along Mason Road, which is a 2-lane roadway and is easily accessible from Interstate 79, Pennsylvania Turnpike, and State Route 65, a person would find a woman's body part. That body part being her head. When examiners arrived on scene, they would note that her head was embalmed and was in the area for 1 to 4 weeks. The autopsy would reveal the woman's eyes were removed and replaced with red rubber balls. Detectives would contact organ donation centers and they stated that was not a part of any processes. The balls were later found to be China manufactured from a toy. The person who did this had some anatomical knowledge. Authorities also believe the woman is not from the Beaver County area. Please be reminded back to the crime scene that is easily accessible to an interstate. Many questions remain unknown, and the first being who this woman really is. How only her head was at the scene, and how could she be embalmed and not properly in her final resting space? With these questions that remain unanswered, we can help authorities with getting tips into our Jane Doe as they work this unsolved case. Our Jane Doe is described as white female, between the ages of 40 to 80 years old, with gray or partially gray hair. Help us find out Jane Doe's name by submitting any tips to Economy Borough Police. 724-869-7877. This concludes our episode, and together, we can help authorities gain tips by simply bringing awareness by sharing this video. Your assistance helps victims and families across our nation. Thanks for watching. Stay safe.